Accessing the air filter in a 2003 Honda Accord is fairly straightforward. This needs to be done periodically, either to replace the whole filter or to wash it and clean it, depending on the type of filter element you have. If it's a paper type filter, it can't be washed. If it's a washable felt filter, it can be washed and cleaned with its proper air filter cleaner repeatedly multiple times and then coated with an air filter oil. In this video I'll show you how to access it, where it is, what tools and equipment you need to get this done. This is, as you can see, pretty filthy. You can see this dirt spot in the middle of it. The air filter lives in an air box on the left hand side of the vehicle here. It doesn't matter if the vehicle is made for the left hand drive market or for the right hand drive market. The air filter will be here right next to the battery. Precautions: when you work around the battery here, make sure you don't connect the battery's terminals with a sufficiently long enough metal tool like so. So where you place your tools and what you do with your hands is up to you. You can also cover the battery or disconnect the battery negative terminal, but even that will not prevent shorting the terminals. But if you disconnect the battery terminals, then at least in case you short the battery terminals accidentally, then your computer and your electronics will not be permanently damaged. If they do get damaged, that's a couple of $1,000s of extra effort there on top of dealing with your air filter, which is, I don't know, $10 something. So I've set up my tripod so that it doesn't interfere with the battery terminals. It's got a spike at the end of the foot, as well as the engine is cold enough to the touch so it doesn't melt the tripod, and I can also put items on it without worrying about that. The air filter lives in this space here right next to the battery, and it needs to seal properly. So how the seals are around the edges and how it's fitted into the airbox is important. Okay, so this rubber edge here needs to be properly on. It's not held by much force, but it needs to be properly on. And once it's cleaned or replaced, it needs to be fitting into the box here. The vehicle takes in air. This is your air intake. The vehicle takes in air through this pipe here, or this duct there. You can't see much of it, but there's a big opening there, and the airbox is also dirty, so this needs to be cleaned out. That's why I have the air compressor here hooked up. And once the air filter is in place, the upper half of the airbox goes on top of it. It needs to connect with 4 bolts. Let me just put it somewhere not on the battery. 4 bolts. 1 bolt there, 2 bolts there, 3 bolts, and the 4th one. And like I said, the alignment of these bolts and the fact that the air filter be seated properly, square and level and nice and even everywhere is really important. All of the air that the engine takes in through the air intake ductwork, through the throttle body there, all of the air should be filtered. If there's any gaps in the seam here, any unfiltered air is being sucked in with the rest of the filtered air that accidentally gets filtered, and all of the unfiltered air will be dirty air, and dirt and grits and solid particles will destroy the fine metal components in the engine, given enough time. It depends where you operate the vehicle. In a desert, it can destroy it permanently destroy the engine irreversibly, needs an engine replacement or engine rebuild in just a few months. If it's a different climate, I don't know. So the air filter needs to be fitted properly back, seated well, so that's I hope is crystal clear. It's also disconnected at 2 points here. This doesn't need any tools, just pinch it and pull out a small pipe there, which is this one here, flexibly connected, so it's not rocket science. You have to pull it out this much because it's meant to flex here when the engine is in normal vibration. Do not introduce any dirt inside the throttle body. Alright, so that should be meticulously clean there. And one more is connection point is this hose clamp here. This needs a 10mm wrench. This alignment tab here needs to be, you can kind of see the shape of it. It was right against this tab here on the casting, on the throttle body casting, and it should be on this side of it, on the, I guess if you look at it this way, the left hand side of it, that's where the tab should go. Alright, don't rip out your wires, of course. And yeah, that was a little bit of dirt in there already, so that should be cleaned and kept clean. That's why the compressor is here, so any dirt that drifts in there can be cleaned out with a burst of air that way. So that's where it is. And to undo those 4 screws in the corner, you either need a screwdriver with a long Phillips number 2-bit, electric or whatever, or you need a socket, an 8mm socket in this case. Works magic. Now the 4th screw here will be difficult to access from up top here when the airbox and the accordion part of this ductwork is in the way here, but you can put your hand underneath and you can reach the bolt and you can get it started and then get the wrench and tighten it that way. That one's fairly easy. This one is the absolute easiest to get to, and that one is also relatively easy. Watch the battery terminals or cover them. So that's what it takes in terms of tools and technique, or whatever you want to call it. That airbox also needs to be cleaned with compressed air, blowing the dirt out of it while the throttle body is covered. Okay, so it does, and also this hole also needs to be covered so it doesn't get reintroduced or introduced into the engine, that dirt that's sitting in the airbox. So I hope that makes sense. And this air filter service, replacement or cleaning needs to be done at regular intervals, depending on the driving, whatever is in the service manual. I don't know. It depends how harsh the driving conditions are, but this is a regular maintenance item coming straight out of the service manual. So that's what it takes. It's not rocket science. I don't know if you can do it, but hey, give it a try. See what happens.